I think medicine has a beautiful way of opening the door for the gospel in the same way that Jesus touched people's physical body and they were receptive to the gospel message. In the same way, as we administer medicine, as we help people medically, it also opens the door for them to be willing to listen to the message of the Bible. I want to tell you about a man named Fato. When he and the people of his village were sick, we went and helped them medically, and that opened the door for them to be interested and willing, and not only just willing, but desiring to hear the message of the Bible. Before, we just followed the trail of the ancestors. Our fathers taught us that we could never live in the valleys because the valleys are full of evil spirits. Our ancestors showed us that we had to live on ridge tops and mountain tops. We built our houses there, but not only did we build our houses up high away, a long ways away from where the evil spirits were residing in the valleys, but we also built them up in the air so that we'd be able to have an advantage over the spirits. And when we built our houses, we had to make sure that they were enclosed really well. We had, on the inside of our houses, we had bark sheets to make sure, and on the outside of the houses, we split planks and made our houses really airtight so that no spirits would be able to see into our houses. They would be able to eat us and cause us to get sick and die. So we made our houses really strong in order to keep the spirits out. We told our kids, just like we had been told, don't dare go out at night. Don't you dare go anywhere at night, because if you go out at night, an evil spirit's going to see you and it'll eat you and you'll die. You can't go off into the jungle by yourself. You always have to go in groups of 2 or 3. Otherwise, the spirits might see you, eat you, and you would die. One of the customs we had to keep evil spirits from coming up out of the valleys and harming us where we lived was we took stones. We would select very long and flat stones, and we'd haul them up to the areas where our houses were. And in front of our houses, overlooking the valleys, we would stick those stones upright in the ground as not a monument, but as a barrier to keep the evil spirits from coming up out of the valleys to eat us. Another thing we did was offer sacrifices of pig's blood to spirits in order to keep them happy and in order to pacify them, keep them appeased, because we knew the spirits liked the smell and the taste of the blood of the pigs that we would offer to them. One of the spirits we were deathly afraid of was called the Kimyo spirit. And he's the one that's living down in this valley behind us, a particular kind of spirit, a class of spirits that lives in this valley behind us. And before, we were terrified of this valley. We would never, ever think of sleeping there overnight or building a house there or clearing a garden there. We always stayed up on the ridge tops. We did all these things. We tried to do everything exactly the way the ancestors taught us, but we continued to die. My uncles, my aunts, my brothers, sisters, family members, cousins, extended, close, everybody was just dying one after another, and we couldn't stop death. No matter how hard we tried to pacify, to appease spirits, we continued to die on and on and on. And then later we heard that Jonathan and Keith had come to another village, another Hewa village. And it was a long ways away. It was a 2-day hike away, so that we weren't able to go and live with them and stay with them. And it was a different dialect anyway. It was hard for us to even understand when Jonathan and Keith started teaching the Bible. But when they did, I would go and I would look at them and I would observe them, and I would think to myself, this is something we need to hear. I would like to hear this message too. But it didn't really hit home until later. We continued to die. Our relatives would die. People in our own household would die, our family members. Even my firstborn child died, and I struggled with that. I didn't understand. I had done everything right to appease the spirits, but here my own firstborn died, and my other family members were getting sick, and it scared me to death. Well, one day there was a sickness that came through the valley, came up from the valley, through the mountains, and people in my house were dying, and it scared me. We buried one person right outside our door, the grave right in our yard there. Then another person got sick and died, and then a third one got sick and died, and we were terrified. We were terrified because I also got sick, and my wife got sick, and my children got sick, and I realized, you know what, this is the end. But right then at that time, Jonathan and Yanis came to see us, and they had medicine. They gave us a medicine, but we were too weak to even sit up and drink it. They actually had to put it in our mouths, put it on our lips, and then help us put a water bottle to our lips so that we could drink. And after 3 days, we started to recover. And that got me thinking, man, I need to hear what this foreigner has to say. I want to hear his message. After we recovered from that illness, we started sending messages requesting that Jonathan or Yanis or Ken or anybody would come and tell us the message of the Bible. It took a while, but eventually Jonathan did come with Yanis, and we were so excited. We had a big meal. We killed a couple pigs in honor of their arrival, and we were just so excited. They began to teach us, and we realized as we were being taught that we had previously been in severe darkness and didn't know it. When we understood the message of Jesus and how he died to pay the penalty for our sin, how his blood covered over our sin so that we could have a relationship with God. When we understood that, an illustration is like our pigs. We tie our pigs to a stake. We drive a stake in the ground, tie our pigs to the stake, and they're our slave. They can't go anywhere. They belong to us. And that's the illustration. We were tied before with a pig rope, a pig leash, to Satan. Through the ancestral ways, we were on the trail of Satan. He had us tied, bound, and we had no way to get off this trail, to be released, to be free. When we heard the message of Jesus and how he died and his blood paid for our sin, at that time, it was as if Jesus cut that pig rope so that we were no longer slaves any longer to Satan, to the ancestral ways that kept us bound. We were free to follow Jesus. All of a sudden, my eyes were open. It was as if before I could never see. When I was following the ways of the ancestors, it's as if I couldn't see. I was a blind man stumbling through life. Now that we've had the message of Jesus, I can see. I can see what's going on. And it's the same with my mind. It's as if before I couldn't think. When I was following the trail of the ancestors, it's as if I had no reason, no ability to reason and contemplate. When we were on the ancestral track there, following the ancestors, we didn't give it a second thought. When my dad's mom died, when my dad's dad died, when my relatives died, and we killed people, I killed a man, and I killed a woman. I was part of those raiding parties that killed people, and I had no concern for it. I didn't even think twice. They say I didn't have big thinking. My thinking wasn't big, as in it didn't bother me at all. But then when we heard the message of Jesus and heard what Jesus did for us, then we heard the whole story of how there's going to be a day of judgment, and we're going to appear in front of God, and there's going to be a day of court, a judgment day. I got scared, and all of a sudden I realized, whoa, I'm guilty. I've done terrible things in God's eyes. I've done terrible things in God's eyes, and there's a punishment coming to me. Now I realized that we had killed people thinking, oh, it's of no significance. It doesn't matter. We're just saving lives. We're keeping other people from dying. But now, after I heard the gospel, I was like, oh my word, I'm guilty. I'm in trouble with God. There's anger coming to me. There's a payback coming to me for what I've done. Now I tell people, stop. We thought there was a reason to go and kill men and women, but now we realize, no way. We weren't stopping sickness and death by killing people. We were only feeding into Satan's program, only doing what he wanted us to do. So now when I talk to people, I say, stop that. You're not accomplishing anything by killing people. Instead, let's sit down and let's listen to God's word and let's obey God. Do what he told us to do. Do it his way. So before, I didn't understand what this message was about or who it was for. But when my eyes were opened and my mind was open and I understood what was happening, then I realized for the first time, this message isn't a message for foreigners. This message is coming to me. It's for me. Jesus died to take care of my sins. His blood covered my sins. Now I can have a relationship with God. This message was for me, and it sank in, and it's real to me.